Good evening, race fans, and welcome to yet another race here with Velocity Racing League. We are here today at the legendary Laguna Seca road course here today. Another road course as from last week. We saw the action at Long Beach. Now we're back here again at yet another road course, back-to-back action, like I just said. But we're going to go ahead and get into the action here. My name is Mason Highbaugh, joined alongside me, Gareth McAllister, as per usual, joining me from down under here today for another beautiful race. Gareth, welcome to the booth. It's going to be another lovely race here today as we get ready to kick off qualifying, and already a few drivers having put down some times here. I mean, it's going to be an exciting race here today.
Oh yeah, it looks like it's going to be one crazy race. It's got so many fantastic talking points really coming out of this race at the moment. You know, such as like Howie Briss, if he finishes 17th or better in these last three races, this one included here at Laguna Seca tonight, he will be able to clinch the championship title. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on, and I believe he will almost do that by default this race, as I think we have about 16 or 17 or so drivers turning up, so he's looking in a good spot to make that happen. As you can see there, we just watched Sean Williams go over or through the carousel. That's going to be probably the trickiest challenge, especially in race conditions with all the cars around you, to get the timing for that braking zone right, because if you really try to send it in a little too deep to make a pass, you can find yourself not making the apex of that corner and just going straight off into the sand trap waiting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things that drivers are going to have to be wary of here today at Laguna, and as we were watching Sean Williams make his way through the first turn here at Laguna, you know, last week, again, seeing the action from Long Beach, quite the race that we had here last week. Tonight might be a lot of the same here with Tony Hilbrand's back in his 92 machine here for this race after last week and the week before. He was not able to compete due to his pedals not working correctly, so he had to use his clutch pedal as a throttle in 2 races prior in order to finish out that race, and ultimately having to get that repaired so he could be here tonight for the race at Laguna. And so far, the 92 machine looking fairly solid out here with a 1:30.40 as his best time. Only 3 seconds from Aaron Smith with a 1:27.96 as his best time, and Aaron completes his qualifying run here, only doing 1 lap. So I think here, just judging by that, Aaron is feeling very confident here today. James Miller, the 09 machine with a 1:28.71. James Miller, another driver that we saw last week at Long Beach, kind of having a very, very good run. Keeping himself up there, keeping up with the action, and good to see Miller back out here doing the similar, kind of a similar routine here in qualifying. Let's see if that holds up as we go in through the race. Connor Gibson, the 31 machine, another driver that we saw last week at Long Beach, do fairly well here. The 31 currently sitting at the bottom of the timing tower, only 7 drivers having put down a time here out of the 15 that are here on track currently. So slowly but surely, drivers making their way out onto track, getting those qualifying laps in here in our 10-minute qualifying session that we have before we see the green flag drop. I was getting myself a little bit of information here pulled up on my screen here before I kept jabbering here, but I'm going to go ahead and keep doing that and continue to keep jabbering here. Or Gareth, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm sure you've probably raced here plenty of times in your racing history. What are some key points? What are some, well, tricky parts of the track, other than obviously the corkscrew being the biggest challenge of this track here? I mean, what are some things that you would look out for, maybe particularly in these cars?
Well, particularly in these cars, Mason, I'd really be aware of, we can see it already, with a few of the drivers really struggling with the rear end. You can see it stepping out a lot, and I know I made the same sort of talking point on almost every road course we go to, especially Long Beach last week, but one thing that's interesting here is some corners are flat, some corners are banked, some are off camber, some are on camber, some You know, the elevation change is huge. You've got a whole bunch of different small nuances, and they can really unsettle the weight balance in these cars. And these ARCA cars in particular are very sensitive to any weight change in or around the rear of that car, as it's quite high off the ground, so there's not a whole lot of aerodynamic pressure to keep that car planted in the rear end. And a lot of these corners are quite, like, towards the end here, you can see this sharp little corner, as well as the Andretti hairpin. They really encourage you to slam down the accelerator as you go around it. As you can see, Matthew Fitz, they're having a lot of troubles during his run. But yeah, some of these corners really encourage you to get on the gas as quickly as you can and as hard as you can. And in these cars, that's just not a very smart idea. So it's really going to be very much about throttle control today.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of drivers out here today. I mean, just from the few drivers that we've watched here in qualifying, that rear end is definitely going to be a worrisome spot, I think, for some drivers here, trying to keep these cars in a straight line, going in the right direction. And with that onboard that we had with Matthew Fitz just a little bit ago, we had an opportunity to be able to kind of see what it was like for a moment there, in a qualifying run at least, with no other drivers around you, and just trying to get yourself the best time that you possibly can here. And, you know, Fitz going out of the corkscrew, it definitely looks that turn, I forget what the turn number is, but going into, out of the turn of the corkscrew, it's definitely a very strange transition for the weight of the car. It seems like everything kind of shifts down and to the right, and coming from the corkscrew, definitely have to be very careful, make sure that you're not going too quickly, but also not slow enough that you're getting passed up on the field here. But Gareth, I mean, we were both very hyped up last week going into tonight, as we both kind of expected this race to bring some very competitive action compared to what we saw at Long Beach. I mean, we saw a lot of great racing at Long Beach, don't get me wrong, I love the action there. But tonight, like you said before we went live here, Garrett, that we could potentially see a lot more passing happen, as we have more opportunities for that here.
Yeah, I think a lot of the turns around here encourage more passing opportunities, depending on how, you know, just how brave you want to be under braking and how brave you want to be really getting the gas pressed down as quickly as you can. And it's really going to test not necessarily the skill of the driver, but also just the mettle and just their determination to be the winner. As we saw, very unlucky there for James Coulibaly, just not able to finish the lap, or I believe that was an out lap, so he might have just been practicing a little bit more as we go into the warm-up just before the race begins. But yeah, 11 turns here today at Laguna Seca, which is named Laguna Seca because the course was built around a dry lake bed, and Laguna Seca is Spanish for dry lagoon. So there's a little bit of trivia for you. And also, Mason, this track opened in 1957, and it has its 65th birthday on November the 9th. Now, that stat really impressed me when I found that one out, because I've seen a lot of modern racing here. I didn't realize it went all the way back to the 50s, but yeah, that surprised me very much.
You know, it surprises me every day to learn more about the tracks that we venture to, whether it be virtual or real life. The history for motorsport is just rich, and it's extremely fascinating. But again, we're here tonight at another legendary track, Laguna Seca, and we have our starting lineup available for us now, with Aaron Smith and James Miller up in the front row. Howie Briss and Tony Hilbrand's going to take the second row. Nicholas Lovell, Sean Williams in our third row. Thomas Sewell, Connor Gibson in our fourth row. Matthew Fitz and Logan Jones in our fifth row. James Coulibaly and Tom Mercia in our sixth row. And as we only have a few drivers left here, Michael Ashmore, Howie Dietrich in our seventh row, and Scott Shire and Nicholas Corcel rounding out the field here in the tail end of the eighth row here. But Gareth, I mean, drivers stacked up behind the pace car as the Porsche safety car makes its way around for the first pace lap of the day, getting ourselves ready for the start of today's action. 55 laps, 200 miles, or 200 kilometers rather, for road courses that we will be completing here today. So, in good old tradition, as we see with Velocity Racing League and the road course races that we go to, I expect things to be relatively smooth going in relation to cautions and things like that. I mean, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Gareth, we saw one caution at Long Beach?
No, we weren't caution-free at Long Beach.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of the road course prior. I'm actually blanking on which one that was now, but nonetheless, I think the start of this race is going to be very interesting, given the fact that, Howie Briss, like you mentioned, he's got to finish well in these next few races, and this one included. I mean, he's got to have a good finish here. Not necessarily, he has to win. It's not a win or lose situation for Howie Briss, but it's definitely something for the 97 driver and for the 97 team to be aware of and just trying to keep themselves up there. And I don't think Howie's going to have too much struggle with that. Tony Hilbrand's obviously coming back from not being able to race the past couple of weeks, back out here again and sitting up in the top 4. It's got to be a good spot here for Tony Hilbrand and see how that plays out for him for the rest of the night here. And what I'm really curious about here, Gareth, is the fact that James Miller, the 09 machine, up here with Aaron Smith. We know that Aaron's going to be very dominant here tonight. He's going to have a very tight grip over this field, but I gotta wonder what James Miller's got under his hat here today.
Yeah, well, if in recent races, if anything has been proven, it's that James Miller really has something to show Aaron Smith in the way of competition, especially on these road courses. So we could see quite another good show as they head to the start line. And here we go, Aaron Smith and James Miller side by side. They're going to take us away. Howie Briss and Tony Hilbrand's just behind. We're still too wide all the way through into turn 1 as we go through the Andretti hairpin. Aaron Smith is going to take the lead as he had the inside line. We're going to pan back a little bit to more of these battles. I believe that's going to be Connor Gibson fighting with Thomas Sewell. And Connor Gibson in the 31 machine is going to take over that on the exit on the right-hand corner. And we're going to go heading down into these next section of corners. Strangely enough, Laguna Seca does not name a lot of their corners. They just gave a couple of names to here in their places and then left it at that. Koulibaly we saw with struggles early on in qualifying, so he made up a position there on Nicholas Corcel and now working up to Tom Mercier for the 10th place, just behind Tom Mercier there as they head up into the corkscrew.
Into the corkscrew we go, in single file for the most part for a lot of these drivers here. Tagging along here with Matthew Fitz as he makes his way down through the corkscrew here. He's got Tom Garcia right on his tail. And, so far everyone's taken this relatively easy on this start. A little bit of a wobble there out of the rear end of the 69, but keeping things together. I mean, again, everyone just keeping things real clean here. Not getting too hot on the throttle, not trying to make any dive bomb attempts into a turn or anything like that, but we definitely have some good side-by-side action here with Mercia and Matthew Fitz, excuse me, not Matthew Fitz, James Koulibaly side-by-side as they scream down the front straightaway across the checkered line, heading back into turn number 1. And right now, I mean, looking at timing and scoring, we can't really see it right now on our screens because we're still tagging along here with some of the action towards the tail of the field here, but Aaron Smith has already worked his way up to nearly over a second gap now that I'm looking at it. And I gotta say, I mean, that's just credit to Aaron Smith and the number 70 driver. Is just purely talented behind the wheel with these cars. But back here towards, kind of the mid-pack, things are a little bit more interesting. We've got more drivers kind of stacked up with one another, and hopefully, potentially, we might see them kind of stay in these little groups or even start to track down drivers ahead of them, just depending on mistakes being made or how really frankly, how the drivers start to really start to find themselves as the race goes on here. I know that really didn't make any sense, but I'm going to stick with it anyway.
Yeah, Mercia into the braking zone, and that's what I was talking about earlier on. Was just like it's a very difficult braking zone into the corkscrew. It's just got a little bit of a kink, and you want to get the car lined up straight, and managed to do that. Almost got into the side of. Oh, who was that? We got some smoke, and I looked.
I believe that was
like Connor Gibson, and we had Fitz go around out wide, working his way back onto the track. I did see him entry quite.
Alrighty, folks. Well, unfortunately, our communications here have been ceased. As yes, there we are. We're back here. My Discord decided it needed to take a little bit of a nap here and reset itself. But I apologize for that, Gareth.
That's okay. I had a bit of a panic myself, and I was wondering what was happening. But as long as we've got you back, that's the main thing.
We're taking a look here at the action. Again, still towards the back of the field. This is where a lot of the action is right now, Gareth. And for the folks at home, hopefully everyone is enjoying. We've got Don Hillbrands and Thomas Sewell both in the chat here. Thank you both for tuning in and watching. I hope you guys are having a good, happy Halloween. Yeah, look at this side-by-side racing here with Scott Shire, as well as James Coulibaly. He gets off in a little bit into the dirt there, keeping it on the track, though, not getting himself further bent out of shape in that situation. Going side-by-side here. James Coulibaly is going to get stuck up on the outside there and a little wide for the 22 machine. He goes sideways.
Yeah, they're going down into... Hang on, sorry, Mason, I'm just a little bit behind because of the way you...
All right.
Yeah. Just because of everything working out the way it was. You take over for a second while I'm trying to sort myself out.
No worries. Connor Gibson that we're looking at here right now, back up in 7th place at the moment, battling it out here with Tom Mercia. But yeah, James Coulibaly having a little bit of a rough moment there, getting sideways through that. Let's take a look at a instant replay of that here. We'll get back to the action in just a quick second here, but I just want to take a look at this little bit of a slip up here from James Coulibaly. This is what you're going to be wanting to look out for as a driver. So here he goes, just both right-hand tires, just a little bit into the dirt, and I mean, obviously that's not the only issue there, but James Coulibaly just having a rough time in through the corkscrew, but he's still back out here. He's still racing, keeping things together here. Just unfortunately going to have to be a little bit further from the rest of the pack now, as we're looking with the rest of the field, and it seems like Coulibaly is continuing to have some troubles here in that 22 Caterpillar machine. So I'm not sure if he suffered some damage somewhere. I don't know how he would have, unless he really ran off somewhere and smacked into a barrier, but I don't think that's exactly the case here. But more action down through the corkscrew as Scott Shire, Nicholas Coruscant, Connor Gibson, and I believe that is Tom Mercia up here in the 68 machine. Coors Light sponsored 68 car up here in 7th place, and so far this string of drivers is the closest pack that we have here on the field. Looking a little bit further ahead here just for a moment, Aaron Smith, I mean, already has worked his way up to, I can't really see it on the track map there, but he's already nearly 4 seconds ahead of the rest of this field here. So and as sorry about that, Gareth.
That's okay, and just for everyone watching at home, we've had a few technical difficulties is the best way to describe, I think, at the moment what we're going through. But regardless, we have Aaron Smith making quite a nice charge through the front. James Miller unfortunately not able to stand toe-to-toe with him like he did last week. Aaron Smith trying to prove that he's still the dominant car that everyone decided he was very early on. Scott Shire and Nicholas Coruscant with the closest battle we have at the moment, only half a second between them as they head down into, I say down, up into the braking zone for the carousel. There's the down. Just in front of them, Tom Mercia cutting through on the exit on the right-hander at the bottom of the carousel, so not braking hard enough and having to go through the sand trap, as I guess would be the golfing term, and here would be what do we call it in racing? I mean I call it the kitty litter because that's how it's that's how the Aussies call it. I'm not quite sure what you're supposed to call it, but anyway, as Tom Mercier is still in front of Scott Shire and Courcelle, this is definitely your closest battle on track at the moment.
Yeah, definitely seeing a big spread throughout the field at this moment. So, you know, and that's just, this track is going to be challenging, to say the least. And, you know, drivers are not really, these aren't going to drive like your average cup car or a formula car or anything like that. There's a lot of skill involved to be able to take these cars around these road courses. And the fact of the matter is, it's difficult to keep up, you know, on a track like this. So for drivers that are finding themselves a little bit spread out through the field, I mean, frankly, that's to be expected coming to any road course, frankly, regardless of where it's at. So it's all a matter of, you know, in these sorts of races, it all comes down to strategy. It all comes down to what can I do down in the pits, what can I do to be able to shave off a second, 2 seconds off from the interval from the driver ahead of me. Whatever the case may be, there's 1,000 things that you could be questioning or trying to figure out, but at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to just what can you do as a driver. Hopefully it works out for you. But, you know, Gareth, I know that you haven't seen a lot of the previous road course races, but I gotta say, every single week that we see these, the drivers just get better and better and better. You know, we see less drivers getting off track, we see less drivers kind of spinning out, so on and so forth. It's very, very impressive to see and to witness these drivers kind of learning and adapting and understanding what it takes to be able to tackle these courses.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing at the moment almost an example of that. As what I can determine as an example of that is, I'm not seeing too many cars at the moment sliding the rear end like we did in qualifying. Obviously, they were pushing as hard as they could, and during the race, they calm it down just a little bit, as they are not doing lap shootouts. But still, I'm seeing, like, especially with Thomas Sewell, who we're looking at now, he is very, very calm and collected behind that wheel. It almost looks like the rear end of that car is very, very steady. And why does this happen every time? Like, you just saw him step out slightly. It boggles my mind that I say something and the opposite happens. But regardless, there we go. That's nice. So, yeah, Thomas Sewell, we could just see really getting a handle on that car. That looked like it was loose again. So, happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. It is a fun night to be here at Laguna on Halloween night. And right now, I mean, yeah, Gareth, I got to agree with you. I think Thomas Sewell and a lot of this field is looking rather stable out here, rather steady. We're not seeing a whole lot of drivers getting too loose here, but I mean, partially, I think a lot of why we're potentially seeing a little bit of a lockup there from Gibson as he tries to slow that 31 machine down. But I think just a lot of these drivers are trying to be as fast as they possibly can. You know, fast in, fast out. You want to be on that throttle as quickly as possible as Gibson gets off into the dirt there a little bit. That's going to slow him down, cost him a position to Thomas Sewell. But yeah, I think a combination of track temperatures, tire temperatures, drivers just trying to absolutely send it, it's a combination of all three of those things. And I can't say it enough, Gareth. I'm just impressed with what we're seeing here tonight. And back up to the front of the field, though, we've got a position change with Howie Briss now up into second place and James Miller in that third place spot. And Gareth, I got to say, these two are definitely going at it here.
Yeah, it's actually very much surprised me because we saw Miller really battling with Aaron Smith last week, and we know how good he is. We know, of course, that Howie Briss is a very good racing driver no matter which track or where he finds himself going to. But genuinely surprised that he would be challenging James Miller at this point in time. We are only 9 of 55 laps. Our fuel window is 25 to 35 laps. We have seen a couple of drivers stretch that out in the past, a couple more laps than the fuel window should allow for, whether they be using the clutch and just making the gas sip just a tiny bit from the tank. But going back to the battle between Howie Briss and James Miller, Howie Briss almost looked a little bit sideways there. I was thinking he would almost go around, but there was no smoke and almost seemed like a controlled slide in a weird sort of way. So I actually think Howie Briss might be intentionally trying to make the back end step out a bit to allow him to get some better corner exit speed, which is a dangerous but interesting strategy that definitely could be paying off and could be the reason why he's managed to get past James Miller.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes I hear it variously through other leagues and drivers that some drivers prefer that really loose kind of rear end or just loose feeling car. Some drivers don't. Some drivers take it on and they love it. Here in Velocity Racing League, all of the cars are set up by Tony Hilbrands. Every single car is running the same exact setup. So some drivers here, maybe Howie Briss, for example, likes to drive a little bit looser, likes to feel that rear end get out from them. And other drivers, they might prefer this kind of more rigid feeling kind of car. It all depends on driver preference. It all comes down to how you as a driver handle a car and how you approach turns and all of that. But point being here, Howie Briss, I mean, duking it out here with James Miller, who really hasn't gotten too far away from him at this point in the race. And man, look at Howie. He's just sending it here, Gareth. And Miller's starting to catch up on him here.
Yeah, it could start seeing that strategy working against Howie Briss with the way he's having a little bit of a looser rear end, as that could actually be chewing up the tires a little bit more than he would like it to be at this stage. So James, there you go again, you can just see it stepping out a bit loose under acceleration, and James Miller is going to have the run. I'm not sure if he's going to want to make the move into Andretti hairpin, but he looks like he's going to give it a go. Howie Briss blocks it off, and a little bit of dust kick up there, as you can see James Miller really stretching out the entry, making it as wide as possible to get the run on Howie Briss heading into turn 3, and it's going to get that done. I believe it's turn 3, it could be turn 2, depends on if you count the hairpin as 2 corners or 1, because it does have a little bit of straight in the middle, but regardless, James Miller able to get, well, you know, sometimes, you know, with these tracks, sometimes they call like a corner 5 different corners, even though it's just one. It's very strange with like small kinks and whatever else. But yes, so we have James Miller has made the move and made it quite dominantly over Howie Briss, almost showing, hey, you know, there's a reason that I finished second last race, and Howie's just going to have to sit there and reevaluate his position. And you know, the biggest thing I notice with a lot of these drivers, well, especially Howie Briss at the moment, is that he doesn't get, what should I say, the red mist, or he doesn't get upset when someone overtakes him, and as James Miller just proved, you know, is quite dominant in the overtake. Howie Briss just keeps calm and collected and keeps it going, and just you know, just gets his rhythm and just keeps finding ways to get back. Whereas some other drivers, I know myself as well, I get a little bit heated, a little bit hot-headed when I see a driver pass me, and I think to myself, you know, oh, what are they doing? You know, I can't see, my line looks smoother, why are they so much better than me? And then I get upset and I make a mistake. So Howie Briss, one of those drivers that there's a reason why he's leading the championship, as we say, week in, week out. It's the consistency, his mental strength is through the roof, and oh, let's interrupt that chain of thought as we have Tony Hilbrands facing the wrong way, not going to ring out a caution. Sean Williams going to go around, as well as, I believe, Lovell passed Hilbrands as well earlier on when Hilbrands went around. So Might want to queue up the replay on that one, Mason.
Yeah, let's take a look here at what happened. We kind of caught the end of it there as Hilbrand trying to correct himself back on the track here. Let's take a look as he makes his way through the first turn here, through the first hairpin. Everything's smooth there, and there goes the rear end and tries to correct it, overcorrects, and brings that car to a stop right in the center of the racetrack. And it's here where he's trying to get everything sorted back out and pointed back in the right direction. But yeah, just a very, very small mistake from the 92 driver, and it's going to cost him a couple positions here, down into 6th place after that little bit of a fiasco. But getting closer to our expected, I believe, pit windows here. Let me take a look at my notes. So 25-35 laps is what we're seeing for our fuel window. Now, given what we've seen so far, we've seen drivers like Howie Briss who are kind of potentially eating up those rear tires just a little bit more, driving the way that he is, a little bit looser. Other drivers, maybe not so much. So I'm curious to see how tire wear is going to come into play here. Fuel, I'm not too convinced that's going to be the prime focus of a driver's pit stop, but it's definitely going to come into play regardless. But lap 13 of 55, and so far, I mean, Gareth, we really haven't, looking at timing and scoring here once again, we really have not seen a whole lot of drivers making too many mistakes here. We've got a couple drivers here and there that getting off track or finding themselves spun around in the wrong direction here, but ultimately everyone's still keeping out on the track, racing and doing a phenomenal job. And so far, from what I can see, only 3 drivers have called it here already. Tom Garcia, Howie Dietrich, and Michael Ashmore have all taken it behind the wall, and it's going to be the end of their nights here. But Tony Hilbrand's with the pass up into P5 around Sean Williams, making that one look relatively easy here. But Garrett, lap 14 of 55, the action is calm and steady, and I mean, looking at the top 5, there's really no sort of potential for battles happening at this point. It looks like we're seeing times of 13, 16, even 20 seconds separating drivers. So I'm not sure if we're really going to see too many battles throughout tonight's race, but I am curious to see, though, how pit stops are going to affect things once that starts to come into play here. Still about 10 to 20 more laps before we see that happen, but I am still interested in what drivers have kind of brought to the table here tonight.
Yeah, an interesting thing to note is that, you know, often on road courses, especially with these ARCA cars, in my experience anyway, is when you get the field that's very close together and then you have pit stops, they can all come out quite separate, as we saw last week at Long Beach, due to working on the car or, you know, choosing to change 2 tires, 4 tires, whatever else, having when to pit, what lap and all that, and just your average sort of lap time and pace. But I tend to find when the field gets stretched out as we have it right now, you can actually have some drivers really close the gap under pit stops. So something to potentially look forward to. Not saying it will happen, but there is definitely a chance it might come down to that. As one thing else to note is we had Tony Hilbrand, you can see just in the background there at the bottom of the screen, Sean Williams. Now they are both running orange paint schemes, and usually they would be running purple and pink, but I believe that they are running orange at the moment due to our Halloween celebrations tonight. Would it be right to call them celebrations?
Yeah, celebrations, festivities. I think that would be an accurate description.
Right. Well, I as being in Australia, we don't really celebrate or have too much in regards to Halloween. Only those who really are Americans at heart decide to don their festive Halloween caps, so to speak. But Mason, I know that earlier on you were doing some fun Halloween related things earlier just before the broadcast. So, do you have any interesting stories, or just take me through, I don't know, the goings on, I guess?
Well, so yes, I did go trick-or-treating with my son and my girlfriend, and it was a great time. My 3-year-old, he went as a triceratops, so he got to be a dinosaur for Halloween this year. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, Gareth. I mean, you know, it makes me a little sad that you guys down in Australia don't get to experience this, but you know, yeah, you get to go around and just get free candy essentially. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm going to ask you next. As, I mean, you said free candy. What's on my mind at the moment?
Well, you know, I definitely did spot some Sour Patch Kids in that bag when we were done. So I'm definitely gonna have to go and finagle that out of that bag when we're done here. But I figured I'll let them have it for a little bit before I go digging through it and picking out what I want.
Sounds like a plan. It's
Oh boy.
Oh, we have Matthew Fitz. Not sure. No, I don't think he was pointed the wrong direction. Might have been during the spin, but able to get it calm and collected. Yeah, looks like. Ooh, looks like a fair bit of damage on the right-hand side, and gonna go off track once again. Possible. I don't think we're going to have a full course yellow. It's very unlikely on road courses, but you never really know, as we do have Tony Hilbrands making his way up behind Matthew Fitz at the moment, coming down into the corkscrew. Very difficult place to even go around the course in a normal car, let alone something as damaged as what Matthew Fitz has at the moment. So he's done a great job to really keep that car under him, and still looking like he's got a fair bit of pace as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised. He's going to go through pit road here as well, so definitely something's going wrong there in that number 69 machine. But let's take a look at the instant replay here and go back and see exactly what happened here for Matthew and what brought this out here for. And it looks like that damage was done prior to this here as well, because there's the slide and just looks, I don't know, that looked like a lockup there to me, Gareth.
Yeah, it definitely did look like a little bit too much under brakes, and the car just got a little bit, the weight just transferred in the wrong, just a little bit too abruptly, I should say, and really got the car loose and centered around as the fronts locked up and the rear wanted to keep going forward, and you spin me right round, baby, right round.
Yeah, and so far, Matthew Fitz, he's come down into pit road, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, and he's still down there getting things repaired, and I'm not certain whether or not he's going to make his way back out onto track here, as Thomas Sewell, a little bit off track here on the final turn across the checkered line in the Oreo-sponsored number 77 machine. Sewell dropping down to 11th here, not having the best of races here at Laguna. But Thomas had a good start and still keeping himself out here on track. So, not everything is going too horribly, but still probably not going in the way that Thomas was hoping for from his start here tonight. But again, still out here, still on the lead lap. So you got to give credit to Thomas Sewell here. Oh, no, he's not. Actually, no, he's not.
Gonna let down. Yeah. Sorry, Mason.
No, you're okay. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, so Aaron Smith and Howie Briss, and in between them, James Miller, really showing just how strong they are at the moment with the way things are planning out. Other drivers having a lot of struggles with their cars underneath them at the moment, but these three really seeming to take exception to everyone else having a spin. By that I mean that they're not also spinning. It's a really long-winded and probably wrong way of saying that, but there we go. Howie Briss got a really loose there. Might have been a small checkup because of, I believe that was Connor Gibson just in front, but yeah, that looked a little bit loose and a little bit worrisome for a second there.
Yeah, ultimately keeping that one together as he races his way past the checkered line. Let's go ahead for a moment. I want to ride on board here with Howie, and let's just have a listen in and enjoy the sights and sounds here for just a moment here with Howie Briss, and just kind of get an idea of what it's like to race here at Laguna with Howie Briss. That was Howie Briss and a ride along here with the 97 machine. And Gareth, I gotta say, it's phenomenal how it amazes me. Let me rephrase that. It amazes me how long the braking zones here with these cars are. I mean, it seems like these guys are having to slow down 150 feet before they make the turn. It's incredible to me how much these guys have to slow these cars down before they can actually make a turn. Again, these cars don't handle like a Formula car. They don't handle like a Cup car. They don't handle even like a rally car, anything close to that for that matter. These cars are very touchy, very sensitive. You really have to be careful when you're making these turns. So yeah, Gareth, it amazes me how far back these drivers have to start applying that brake and start to downshift before they get into that turn.
Yeah, and that it really comes down to, you know, just how heavy these cars are, how unaerodynamic really, in terms of downforce during a corner, during an oval. They obviously use, I forget what the term is now, of course I do, but they use the G-forces, I believe is the right way. I could be saying that wrong, but yeah, they use the forces of the actual banking to press the car down into the track. So without that help on a road course, and with the brakes being as small as they are, not necessarily really needing them all that much in an oval setting, these cars really, they really struggle to slow down a lot, is what I'm basically getting at. So that's why you have to brake as early as you do. Never mind the fact that Howie Briss, really, as we saw as we were riding on board, he was braking later than I would, that's for sure. I would not have as much confidence as he did in his car as we had. Connor Gibson, I believe, had another bit of an incident there, and Thomas Sewell. Oh God.
It's okay, Garrett.
Sewell. I got it. Sewell. I'm sorry, Thomas. Is Thomas able to make use of that bobble and able to get around Connor Gibson, not wanting him to go anywhere anytime soon, and looks like might have a little bit of a run into the corkscrew. There's a bit of a lockup.
Ooh.
There's a lockup from both of them. Connor Gibson getting the advantage of the lockups, of the lockup race, I guess, and getting it where he wants it just before the corner. Unfortunately, not during the corner, as we saw Thomas Sewell did. Another interesting point of note, we have Nicholas Corsell. Now, he's one driver that always, and we see him just behind Sean Williams at the moment. he is one of those drivers that changes his paint scheme every few weeks, and it always seems like he wants us to talk about him because not only does he change his paint scheme, he's also more often than not, he's the biggest mover of the race. I mean, that 7 machine, that team, I don't know what goes on in their minds, but somehow they're able to, they always have difficulty qualifying, and then they just pull a rabbit out of the hat during the race, and they're able to make something happen, and it's always fantastic to see.
Yeah, I believe last week it was the Verizon 7 machine. This week it's Energizer. So definitely having some sponsorship changes here for the 7 team here, but Nicholas Corcel, nonetheless, yeah, he is currently the hard charger of the race, up 9 spots from where he started at the beginning of today's race. And yeah, sitting up in 7th right now, trailing behind both Sean Williams and Tony Hilbrands for that 6th and 5th place spot. I mean, he's not doing a bad job here. He's doing phenomenal, and keeping that consistency is going to help him further through tonight. Now, showing that he is doing the, oh boy, right? Oh no, lock it up, the tires getting smoke all over the place here as the 7 driver Nicholas Corcel narrowly avoids disaster there, bringing that car to a stop as quickly as he possibly could. And frankly, if he didn't make that move as soon as he did, I'm sure he probably would have ended up in that barrier one way or another. But yeah, just goes to show, folks, the drivers here with Velocity Racing League are top notch. These guys are phenomenal drivers, and I gotta say, you know, they put on some fantastic racing week in and week out. Unfortunately for Nicholas Corcel, after that little bit of a debacle just a few turns ago, dropping a little bit further back from Tony Hilbrands and Sean Williams, about 12 seconds to be exact here. So unfortunate for Nicholas in that moment here, but still doing a phenomenal job, up 9 spots, hanging out there in near the top 5 and still in the top 10. So good night here for Nicholas Corcel, and I gotta say, a good night here for, I mean, maybe not as good as he's hoping for, but Tony Hilbrands, gotta give credit to Tony here tonight. I mean, being away from the racing here for about 2 weeks, essentially, and coming back after a little bit of a unwanted break, Hilbrand's doing a phenomenal job on his return and sitting up here in the top 5 at this moment, with Sean Williams very close behind him. Hopefully Hilbrands is able to keep himself up here and out of any, oh boy, I thought something was going to happen there through the corkscrew, but luckily nothing did. But yeah, I mean, both Hilbrands and Sean Williams, these 2 drivers are going to be fighting it, I believe, probably through pit road here, so that's going to be a little bit of an interesting battle with these 2. But it also depends on what these 2, what really the entire field, what their tire wear is going to look like, what their fuel is looking like, because there is, again, a 10-lap window between lap 25 and lap 35 that these drivers can use. And frankly, that's an arbitrary number, because you can, if you're saving your fuel extremely well, if you're saving your tires, you can possibly extend that by a few more laps. But point being here, folks, we have got some fairly solid racing happening right now, and slowly but surely seeing some drivers get stacked up to the field. But Gareth, I mean, it's incredible to me that Aaron is literally seconds behind these guys, and he's about to lap the top 5. That's just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about Aaron Smith apart from just road racing legend? That's probably, he's just become really just famous for his road racing prowess, especially in these ARCA cars, and just seems to find speed where it would seem to other people impossible to find any speed. So fantastic job from him. And we actually had a message from the spectator area from Dawn Hilbrands a little while ago, and I'm sorry I didn't get to it until just now, but she was saying that she thought Smith said that he was done for the end of the year last week in the interview. And while he did, we got a word from him just before, a couple of days before the race began tonight, that the scheduling conflict that he had for the last few races of the year is not taking place until it was postponed till next week. The other schedule, the other thing that he was going to be doing to take up his time, so he won't be appearing for the last 2 races of the season. But for this one, you can be sure that he did turn up. He's leading the race, and the other drivers, I'm sure, are not particularly happy about that. But yeah, you can see him there just behind this battle. Tony Hilbrands and Sean Williams still putting on the battle of the orange cars, the battle of the pumpkins, as they get ready to go down the back straight. And Aaron Smith going to get himself involved as well.
I don't know, Gareth, what would you take into battle, a pumpkin or a banana?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like you'd have the power of the pumpkin, but a banana you'd be able to throw like a boomerang. So you'd have the distance with a banana, and geez, that's a tough one. I feel like a pumpkin would still win out though, because you could use the pumpkin as a shield from the banana, and then while someone was trying to get the banana, you would just hit him with the pumpkin. I don't know. But
that was a great answer.
yeah, well, yeah. I think pumpkin would win against the banana, but I value the different uses that can come out of a banana. And banana's proving that bananas are faster around a racetrack than a pumpkin. So there you go.
A pumpkin would be slightly heavier on the racetrack, so I think Aaron Smith definitely has that going for him, being a little bit more aerodynamic, being that he is in the shape of a banana. I'm only kidding, folks. We're just having a good time up here. But lap 27 of 55 here, and so far we haven't really seen a whole lot of the field make their way through pit road, other than drivers who have either fallen out of the race and have called it a night here, or have just had an instinct to come down into pit road early. I think Nicholas Corp, nope, he definitely had some issues that he needed to address, so that would be the reason for that. But yeah, so anyway, no one has come down into pit road yet for an official pit stop yet. So that makes me wonder, now that we're on lap 27, how soon it will be before we see that potentially here, as we see Connor Gibson getting way off here, as he was side by side there. I believe that was with Tony Hilbrands, and man, not a whole lot of room that Connor Gibson had to work with, and ultimately had to go off track there and keep that car going straight. But boy, that was a nasty wobble.
It looked to me as if Tony Hilbrands was really taking as much exit speed as he could, and he thought that he would be clear of Connor Gibson coming, letting him by. But Connor was obviously still on his right rear quarter panel, and unfortunately smartly and wisely chose to go off the track rather than get involved in an altercation with Tony Hilbrands, which would have been the result had Connor not gone off the racetrack itself. But we already have pit stop starting, as Tony Hilbrands is going to be our first one down pit road, heading out at the moment. So getting a small splash and dash of fuel, and potentially tires in that stop time. I'm not sure you would, but I could be wrong, and maybe tires are the way to go here.
Yeah, I think it might. Looking at the pit time, I think he might have taken tires. I'm not entirely certain on that. I think for fuel, it's usually sub 10 seconds, but I'm not 100% certain on that here. But either way, either how, Tony Hilbrand's the first driver to make his way through pit road here, as now Aaron Smith, the 70 driver, going to do the same here on lap 28. So with that in mind, are we going to start to see drivers like James Miller, Howie Briss, and Nicholas Lovell start to make their way through here in a short amount of time? That remains to be seen, as James Miller, and you can see Tony Hilbrand just behind him, making their way through the corkscrew section before they see that pit road entry come up to them. But yeah, so as this is all starting to unfold, what I'm really curious to see here, and I want to take a look here. Okay, Aaron Smith is definitely making a good pit stop here. He's in and out just over 14 seconds here. But yeah, so I mean, for drivers like James Miller and Howie Briss that have been up here in the top 3, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, Gareth, is being able to potentially close the gap in pit road and try and get a little bit closer to that driver ahead of you. Are we going to potentially see that here between, maybe James Miller or Howie Briss, maybe even some other drivers? We could potentially see Tony Hildebrand make a little bit of a move there, obviously being the first driver through pit road. I'm not entirely certain how the field is going to shuffle about here as drivers make their way through the pits, but I can tell you right now that Tony Hildebrand will definitely probably help himself coming in early and potentially be able to work up a position or two as drivers cycle their way through pits. But Sean Williams now going to take his way down through the pits as well in the 89 machine. So slowly but surely we're seeing that pit road get a trickle of drivers.
Yeah, and another thing, this pit road speed is 35 miles an hour, so very slow pit road compared to the straightaway that is beside. However, it's not incredibly hard to get onto pit road as long as you apply the brakes, because there is a incredibly tight hairpin coming down on pit entry, and that is something we haven't talked about that you should probably be wary of. Also, this pit exit is very unique as well. You don't blend onto the racetrack as you'd expect to just before. You actually cut through the Andretti hairpin and exit just there between turns, the exit of turn 1 and turn 2, I guess, or turn 2 and turn 3, however it's called. Once again, that sort of area. But yeah, so just a very unique sort of layout for pit lane, although we shouldn't see any issues regarding speeding penalties or pit entry or pit exit violations, I would think.
Yeah, I find it hard to imagine that anyone would be coming into that pit entry too hot. Definitely would be a risky maneuver and probably wouldn't end in your favor regardless, as like you mentioned, it's kind of a hairpin into that pit road there. We got a little bit of a sneak preview of it a little bit ago with Aaron Smith making his way down through it, but with the camera angle, it wasn't exactly the best view of it. But anyhow, back out on track here, Sean Williams, Nicholas Corcel duking it out here for the 6th place spot at this moment. And again, Corcel just trying to find his way up through the field here as he gets both wheels up off the ground there as he makes his way over the curb there, Still keeping up with Sean Williams in the 89 machine. So, I don't know if they just packed extra batteries in that 7 car. The Energizer Bunny just keeps on going. But, hey, you know what? He's doing a phenomenal job. And right now trying to challenge Sean Williams for that 6th place spot. I mean, Corcel's definitely got something going for him here tonight. And if he continues on this path here, he's going to do fairly well here tonight, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you see it as well, Mason, but just as we saw Corcel heading towards the camera there, it almost looks he had angry eyebrows from the paint scheme. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. I don't know why I saw that for a second there, but I definitely did, as he was actually one of the very early cars on pit road, so he should be able to, he's probably going to be able to make it to the end. And that's, I think, coming back to the whole, when do you pit and what kind of time it could gain you or lose you, I definitely think that actually helped him, because he came down a little bit earlier than probably is recommended to make it to the end. But I believe that he will be able to come down. He pit in lap 24 and the fuel window is 25 to 35, so just a little bit early, but I believe he will be able to save that one lap, and I think it caught him back up to Sean Williams after that spin, losing the time. So, yeah, this could shape up to quite a good race coming to the end here. We've still got, 25 laps to go, so a long way to go still in this one.
Definitely still a lengthy race to be had, and a lot of positions left to be made up here for drivers. And frankly, as we see, majority of the field now has made their way down through the pits. The only driver left out on track who is really trying to just see what he can do here on this same set of tires as well as fuel is James Miller in the 09 machine. I think James Miller at this point, he's just thinking to himself, if I can stay out as long as possible, I will be able to have essentially the freshest set of tires I can possibly have for the final few laps of the race and really start to charge, in those final few laps. Whether or not that's going to work out in his favor is yet to be seen here, still holding on to that second place spot, even despite having the oldest set of tires on the field right now. Once we see James Miller actually make his way down through the pits and where he ends up once he comes back out, Gareth, I really think James Miller is kind of got a little bit of a trick up his sleeve here and is just waiting for the right time to pull it out.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see something come out of this. I'm very surprised that he's stayed out as long as he has, considering that everyone else has already come down pit road and a couple of laps ago as well. So James Miller, I guess he's just trying something different, just seeing what can happen. You're right, setting himself up to have that last run speed as much as possible, but I don't think that's going to be any help to close that gap to Aaron Smith unless there is a bit of a mistake on Aaron Smith's part. The gap is just a bit too enormous to make up, but maybe trying to do something to keep Howie Briss behind him, as Howie Briss came down pit road, and Howie Briss was not too far behind James Miller either, so not sure, but I mean, I'm sure James Miller and the rest of the pit crew and the team for the 09 machine, I'm sure they have a plan and they're going to stick to it.
Yeah, I think at this point, for a lot of the drivers, you come in with a plan and you try to stick to it as much as you possibly can here. And for James Miller, I think that plan was just go out there and do as best as you possibly can. And just keep yourself out there to the end of the race. And sometimes that's all you can really do as a driver. You don't want to push yourself too much. You don't want to push yourself over that limit. As race car drivers, sim or real world, you're always trying to find that line, that perfect line of going fast enough but not too fast. In a lot of drivers, let me reiterate this here. Some drivers, they take it all the way to that line, or maybe even over that line, right out of the gate. First lap, they're pushing the limits far beyond what they should be. Other drivers, they bump themselves up to it. They turn a few laps and they keep turning up that notch until they get it to where they want it to be.
Whoa, we had Koulibaly. Was that sideways? Sorry, Mason.
You're fine.
I just saw that and whoa.
Let's take a look
here. That was
here.
right in front of James Miller, so that was a dangerous situation.
Let's take a look at the instant replay here involving James Koulibaly in the 22 Caterpillar machine. Tony Hilbrand's just behind him there in the Phenom Paint Shop, and there goes the rear end. Little sideways here, but locking up the tires, bringing that car to a stop, and luckily avoiding other traffic there as they made their way through that turn. That could have ended, like you said, Garrett, that could have been a catastrophic situation for not only James Koulibaly, but for Tony Hilbrand, who's trying to fight for a good spot here tonight in this race, as again, coming back after 2 weeks of not being able to race here. Tony is definitely looking for a good finish to his race here tonight at Laguna. And, frankly, for this whole field, this has been a really solid night of road course racing. We've seen drivers getting loose, getting a little bit bent out of shape here in certain parts of the track, but it's Laguna. That's to be expected here with cars this heavy, with frankly just these cars in general. This is going to be a tough track. It's going to be a tough race through and through, but like I said, everyone has done a phenomenal job and is continuing to show that everyone's learning, everyone's improving here in these road courses, and it just continues to get better and better every time that we come here. So I love to see it, and hopefully we get to see just a continuation of this improvement here for these road course races and for the whole field. It's really great to see these drivers taking on this challenging course among all of the other courses that we've seen throughout the season. And James Miller, finally, the 09 machine, taking the time to go through pit road, and there's a little bit of a slide out of the rear end too as he made his way through across the commitment line.
Yeah, and another thing to note is like these cars, I watch them on an oval and I watch them on a road course, and sometimes I think to myself, they're going a bit slow, aren't they? Well, on the road courses, well, as we've said earlier, the brakes are so small, they've got to look it up. But let's not forget that the cars themselves are actually very fast. They've got 650 horses underneath them. They're actually extremely fast cars, extremely heavy, and extremely small brakes. So they are going quick, even if they don't quite look like it. And definitely a handful behind the wheel. That's for sure. I just wanted to put that out there because I know no one's commented on it during our races, but I often sometimes have in the past, seen these kinds of cars, or just NASCAR in general, those kinds of cars, like stock cars, making their way around road courses and thinking, why are they so slow? Well, they're not slow. They're very, very fast. It's just that they have to slow down so much for the corners because they're so heavy and the brakes are so small.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating to see, just how much these drivers, like I alluded to earlier in the broadcast, how much these guys have to slow these cars down in order to make these turns effectively. You really can't take these corners at speed with these cars. So that's why I think a lot of the times when we see these cars on road courses, even with the modern next-gen cup cars for NASCAR, even when I'm watching some of those races on live television, sometimes I'm just thinking to myself, wow, these cars don't look all that fast. But that's not true. They are actually quite speedy. They have a lot of power underneath them. It's just when you take it out of its element, you have to kind of take a step back and really understand what it is that you're trying to do here at a road course. And again, these cars are built to race on ovals. They're not designed to go on the road courses. So again, you have to really kind of, well, I don't want to say teach yourself, but you really have to challenge yourself to take these cars to these tracks and be able to do well at them. But frankly, saying all this makes it sound as if we've only been doing road course racing with these cars for a short period of time. That's actually quite the opposite. We've seen, oh boy, Hilbrand's there a little bit of a moment.
Hilbrand's is off, and he's going to get passed by both of these cars for positions. So he's going to fall from 5th to 7th as both Sean Williams and Nicholas Corsell go past while they were having their own battle, and still continue to have their own battle. So a little bit of a moment for Tony Hilbrand's there.
Yeah, Hilbrand's, again, he's doing the best that he possibly can here, and probably just trying to keep himself alive for the end of the race here. And again, after being away for 2 weeks and not being able to really do anything behind the wheel, whether it's practice or just general driving, really, Tony Hilbrand's really has kind of set himself up here for a very challenging race, to say the least. Hopefully he was able to get a little bit of practice in before the race here tonight, or at least in the practice session, as you know, the drivers do have that hour to be able to warm themselves up and get ready before the race actually goes green here. But yeah, Tony Hilbrand's still keeping himself up here in the mix of things, and still sitting in 7th place, so not exactly having the worst of nights here, but definitely getting back into the swing of things here.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, he scored back up pretty quickly, actually, to Corcel just in front. So, proving once again that, you know, he does have the speed. We know he does. And he's just found himself. I think he's still just getting used to his new equipment. You know, as you said a little while ago, you know, and even just recently that, you know, he has had to put some new brakes in that car, and because he had a brake issue a couple of races ago, and it took the pit crew quite a bit of time to get that one sorted out for him. So potentially still getting used to the new equipment under his left foot, and trying to figure out, like, really the best way to, I don't know, take advantage of the new pedals that he has. But yeah, showing that he definitely has the pace, just the consistency at the moment that he's lacking, and I believe that is just the new equipment underneath him.
Yeah, you know, and it's a very interesting thing to kind of think about from the perspective of sim racing, is that, you know, you might get used to, you know, certain pieces of equipment, your steering wheel and your pedals, you know, and if one of those things break, and if you have to change, especially your pedals, I think that's probably the biggest one here, as Connor Gibson gets a little off track here, and the caution comes out. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I did not expect us to have a caution at all this race. That's going to throw as my grandma would say, that's going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons.
Well, that's the first time I've ever heard that expression, but that works. That works. Yeah, the first caution of the race here, and I'm guessing it was for Connor Gibson, but he wasn't on the track itself, but maybe it was deemed. Okay, as our cameras here are a little off the subject here, we're gonna go ahead and do the old rewind-a-roo method, as we've done in the past here. And
rewind-a-roo.
Yes, it's patented, trademarked, all that stuff. Anyway,
yeah,
a little bit of a lockup. Oh, he dug in there. He blew his engine.
What? Surely not.
I'm pretty sure he did. I want to ride on board here.
Oh, so a little bit out. Whoa, a little bit squirrely heading up into the carousel, let alone the carousel itself. So, see what happens here.
Relatively smooth through the corkscrew. Now this is where the problem child is. Or not.
Oh wait, is this a different lap?
No, he had a couple issues here before this incident, so I think we're building up to it here.
Well, we've got to go a whole lap around if you wanna build up to it. That's we might have been sent the wrong replay from tech support.
It could have been. I potentially have the wrong. Let's see here. Aaron Smith crashed.
We've got plenty of time under caution, so we'll see if Aaron Smith probably didn't crash. I reckon that's probably going to be a
that startled me for a second.
He stops. He's probably going to slow down for the pace car. Okay, so wow, that's that's what'll do it. I reckon that's what's done it. The caution took a little while to come out though, because it didn't come out there.
Yeah,
I wonder, 'cause we saw him dipping the front right a lot when he went into the. off track just here. I wonder if the wheel has come off of that car. Because
So
that's very down. Okay, so it's not off, but it's... Yeah, that's definitely going to be rubbing the wheel.
yeah, and I do believe that he did actually blow the engine in that. I know that you can't hear it in your section, Gareth, but he definitely did blow that engine.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not sure how, but he did. I don't know if maybe he damaged his intercooler somehow with that impact to the wall. Maybe he was dropping coolant. I'm not entirely sure on that, but it's a potential.
Well, speaking of interesting developments, Miller and Smith and Briss all coming down pit road. That's something I did not expect to see at all. This could be huge. I don't know how this one's going to shape up, Mason, but yeah, wow. Lovell also comes down pit road.
Folks, for the folks watching at home, if you're confused, that's okay, because we are just as confused up here in the booth after what just happened. I mean, this is, to say the least, a wrench thrown in the gears for every single driver here. You know, maybe not even necessarily that. It could also be a glimmer of hope for some drivers, depending on who you are and where you are in the field. With only 14 laps left to go, I mean, obviously we're going to have another chance at a restart here, and a rolling restart at that. So, I mean, I'm not sure, Gareth. I think this could be game-changing. I mean, maybe not so much for Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith probably will be A-okay on this restart, but for drivers like Howie Briss, Nicholas Lovell, and even Tony Hilbrands, who's fallen back a few spots, I mean, this could be their opportunity to make up those positions and put themselves back in the fight for things.
Yeah, and I believe these cars behind the pace car here right now are a lap down, so I believe they're going to get the wave around next time by, unless they come to the pits, which will keep them a lap down. So I personally would not, but they might have to, as far as fuel is concerned. I'm sure they've taken enough, and they will be saving some under caution. So yeah, I believe these four right here, they're going to be taking the wave around, and I think Aaron Smith is going to re-inherit the lead behind the Porsche pace car here at Laguna Seca. So a development I didn't expect to see, and I don't think you did either, Mason, that's for sure. But the mean yellow banana, yep. So, something along those lines. I can't call it as well as you, Mason, but he's gonna take over the lead once again. And you know, Briss might actually have a shot here if Smith gets a little bit too heavy on the gas, just spins the rear tires, or just misjudges the braking zone after what tends to happen. All right, well, not tends to, but what can sometimes happen is, as a driver, you get used to driving a certain way, so braking at certain points and whatever. And under caution, your tires aren't heating up because they're not being driven as hard, so they're losing temperature, which means by the time you go back to green racing, and then you've got to get back green flag racing, you've got to get back on the brakes. The tires don't respond as well as you used to be able to feel them responding. So potentially Smith could have a lockup moment, or misjudge his braking zone, or what have you, and Briss could actually take over the lead of this race thanks to this caution. So yeah, this could really shape up to be quite interesting.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there, Gareth. It's definitely going to be a very interesting restart, and for Howie Briss, the current championship leader, I mean, this is going to be a very, very huge opportunity, like you just alluded to, Gareth, that he might be able to take that first place spot from Aaron Smith, but that's, I mean, it's really, really going to come down to whether or not Aaron is going to make any sort of mistakes here. We know that Howie Briss is very, very good at following. He's very good at defending. I mean, all of the above. He ticks off every box when it comes to being a driver. But I mean, Howie here, what I'm really going to be curious to see is if he's going to put some pressure here on Aaron Smith. I mean, obviously he's going to have to if he wants to take that lead, but it's really going to come down to whether or not Aaron is, you know, again, going to make any sort of mistakes here. If that rear end gets a little bit too loose and he has to spend a half a second trying to recorrect the car, that half a second is all that Howie would really need to be able to overtake that spot if he's in the right spot to be able to do it at that time. But, you know, Aaron, right out of the gate at the start of today's race, he built up to nearly a second gap before we even got to lap 2. So I don't know. That just goes to show, gives credit to Aaron Smith in his prowess behind the wheel, but he also didn't have the 97 machine behind him on that restart. So I don't know. Things could get interesting here, and things are going to be very spicy with these final, what will be 11 laps left to go. Well, actually, I think we're actually going to go back to green here in just a few moments. So I think it'll be 11 laps left to go when we see that safety car make its dive back down into pit road, and we see the green flag drop from the flag stand, and we go back to green flag racing here for the Laguna Seca 200.
Yeah, and you know, another car there just in the background we haven't talked about at all, really, this race. Or not much indeed. Nicholas Lovell is on the inside line, going to be starting in 3rd position, so probably in a good spot to maybe challenge Briss, because Briss will be stuck on the outside lane heading into Andretti hairpin. So unfortunately not getting another lap to let the rest of the field catch up. So at the moment it's just going to be Aaron Smith, Howie Briss, and Nicholas Lovell and James Miller in rows 1 and 2, 1 through 4 as we get going. The rest of the field not able to catch up under caution because we are going back to green. Aaron Smith staying on the inside, of course. Howie Briss having to be on the outside. A little bit of a lockup from Aaron Smith. That's what I was talking about just before, misjudging the braking zone. James Miller out of nowhere. Not sure how he made up 2 positions just like that, but that's how you do it. Howie Briss having to get in behind, just sanctioning off Nicholas Lovell, not letting Lovell take that position, as well as James Miller. And Miller is going to try something hard to get Aaron Smith to come back to him here.
Yeah, Miller is definitely giving it his all here in that. That was a brilliant move that he made through turn 3 around Howie Briss and Nicholas Lovell. I mean, like you said, it came out of nowhere. From the 09 machine. I really didn't expect that, but he made it work, and now he's trailing behind Aaron Smith about a second from that leader at this point in time, and Howie Briss has already fallen to over a second behind James Miller here in that 3rd place spot. So Aaron Smith, I mean, this restart couldn't have gone any better for the 70 driver, able to get away from the rest of the field here. Still has to worry a little bit about James Miller in that 09 machine. 11 laps left to go. There is still time left here tonight. And Don Hilbrand's asking in the chat, why don't they let the whole field catch up? That is usually, this is a niche case with iRacing where you don't really have the ability to control that. Everything's kind of done automatically when it comes to the flags in all of that regard. So everything's kind of predetermined, and you only have 1 lap. Once the lights go off on the pace car and the field gets let around, you only have 1 lap to be able to catch back up in the iRacing service. Obviously, in real life, you'd be able to hold that yellow flag for a little bit longer, let the field catch back up, so on and so forth, to be able to have a full restart. But because we can't necessarily do that here on the iRacing service, that's not exactly an option here, unfortunately. So if you're a driver in that situation and you are on a restart and you're, you know, like Tony Hillbrand's or Sean Williams, Nicholas Corcel, who had to basically go back to the tail end of the field, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is here with the iRacing service. It's a little disappointing sometimes, but you got to do what you got to do, I suppose. But I mean, even with all of that in mind here, Gareth, I mean, the fact that Sean Williams, Nicholas Corcel, and Tony Hillbrand's, I mean, they were all up there in the top 5, or close to, rather. Tony Hillbrand's was in that top 5 before getting dropped down a little bit there. But I mean, they've all done a phenomenal job here tonight in this race, and man, there goes my train of thought, Gareth. It flew away from me.
I mean, everyone's done a phenomenal job. I mean, this track is notorious for saying hello to your ego and sending it on its way. So yeah, this is a very, very, very tough track to really stay on the asphalt with, and you know, I've been very impressed. And you know, I was just about to allude to James Miller. Now, just as we see there, entering back on track right next to Briss, so they're going to have a battle here into the the corkscrew. I was going to say carousel. That would have been wrong. But into the corkscrew, Howie Briss still has the inside. James Miller having a little bit more pace on exit. Miller able to take the spot back. But I was going to say, just before Miller had that little bit of an off there, he was using a lot, and I mean a lot of the track. You could see as you were talking and as I'm talking now, he is using every inch of that circuit, trying so hard to stay on the tail end of Aaron Smith's number 70 Banana, but unfortunately just not able to do so. And he was trying very hard, and that's I think that's what just the mindset, just the red mist got to him. He just thought, I've got to catch him, and unfortunately just kept on pushing to the point where he lost one of his braking marks, and or accelerated a little bit too quickly, and just got a little bit off the circuit. As you can see, he's still using every inch of curbing, every bit of runoff, every centimeter of track that is available. I mean, he is pushing that 09 machine as quick as he can, and someone might need to tell him to just back it down a little bit to make sure another incident like what just happened before doesn't happen again, and he doesn't lose that second place spot at the moment.
Yeah, Miller is definitely sending it, as Don Hillbrand's said in the chat. He is on a mission here, and he's not done yet. With 8 laps left to go, there's still time, but I mean, with a 7-second gap between Aaron Smith and Miller, I don't know, it's looking a little doubtful at this point in time, unless Smith has some sort of issue here in these final 7 laps of the race. I'm not sure that James is going to be able to catch up to the lean, mean yellow banana of Aaron Smith here, as we're riding along on top of the roof camera here with Howie Briss in the 97 machine, just trailing along here with James Miller. He's just in the foreground, just barely. I mean, it almost, for Howie Briss, it probably feels like he could just reach out and grab the 09 machine and yank it back. But, you know, it's definitely been a interesting night here for racing for these drivers. I mean, we've seen a lot of opportunities for passing. We've seen a lot of drivers really getting down, trying to dig in and make passes, trying to make anything happen here for themselves. And really on a track like Laguna, I'm impressed. I'm impressed to say the least. Seeing drivers use every bit of racetrack that we possibly can, like we've seen from James Miller, and frankly from other drivers here as well. We haven't really given too much of a thought here to, you know, well, Gareth, I'm losing it, man. You're rubbing off on me.
What? I'm rubbing off on you. Throw me under the bus. Thanks a lot, Mason. Um, that's just, yep, all right. Howie Briss is coming under fire from Lovell now, though. Lovell's... And Corsella's caught up to Williams further back as well. We've got a battle for 5th shaping up pretty close as well. Corsell, one of those drivers who has been getting faster and faster as the laps have been winding down. So Sean Williams has obviously been incredibly quick this race as well. They're going to be looking like they're having a battle as much as Howie Briss and Nicholas Lovell are having a battle. So battles for 3rd and for 5th really shaping up, both less than half a second from each other. So in their respective own battles. So 6 laps to go. Half a second fights for 5th and for 3rd, 2 major positions. I mean, you can't say much else.
Yeah, it's definitely heating up here with only 6 laps left to go, and Lovell here in the Budweiser 37 machine definitely looking at a chance to be able to take a podium here at Laguna. Still got a trail. He's got to be able to pass Howie Briss in order to do that here, and he's looking like he may potentially be able to pull it off here. Right now he's just a little over a half a second from Howie Briss, but that really won't matter too much going through these turns. As right now, just trying to keep with Howie, trying to match his line work, and ultimately try and bring that gap time down and find an opportunity to get around Howie here. And this might be one of those places to do it here down through turn 1. Not quite where he wants to be able to make that pass happen, but here going through these next couple turns is another spot where he could set himself up to be able to make a pass here, as now he's right on the bumper of Nick. I'm mixing up my names here, of Howie Briss here. But 5 laps left to go. It's going to be a shootout for these drivers in less than, I believe, about 7 minutes, 7-8 minutes before we see the checkered flag come out here. So not a whole lot of time left. And really coming down to the wire for drivers looking to gain a final position before the end of the race here. And ultimately, the only 2 drivers looking at potentially making up a spot here is Tony Hilbrands and Nicholas Lovell here.
Yeah, well, something else that obviously is on screen right now that we haven't really talked about is these 2 cars at the moment that we're looking at. Not only are they battling right now for 3rd position, as we see Miller going super wide in the foreground, these 2 are also number 1 and 2 in the Drivers' Championship at the moment in the overall standings. And this is only... we've only got 2 more races after the conclusion of this one for the season, so Howie Briss at the moment is looking good to take the championship home, but you never know what can happen, and especially when Nicholas Lovell in the 37 machine is right behind him. I'm sure that's playing in Lovell's mind as well, thinking, I've got to get past Howie Briss to make the championship fight a little bit more interesting and close that gap to potentially securing my own championship win. So that's something else that's of note in this race happening right now.
Yeah, and looking forward into, next season as well, when that comes around, I'm excited to see what 2023 has to hold for Velocity Racing League and for the drivers in VRL. It's going to be a phenomenal season, and I've spoken a little bit with Tony Hilbrands about some of the things that we can expect going into next year, and I gotta say, it's going to be an exciting season next year, as this year has really shown us what we can expect from Velocity Racing League. And I think to sum it up in a sentence is that it is just fantastic racing week in and week out. Frankly, this is probably one of my favorite broadcasts that I look forward to every single week. The action is always on point, and all the drivers are just phenomenal through and through. I love to be here. I love to call the races for these guys, and I love to have you up here with me, Gareth, and calling these races with me. This is just phenomenal racing that we have every single week with these drivers and with this league. And I'm glad that we get to we have the opportunity here to bring you folks watching at home the coverage of this race.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. I feel the exact same way, as we're still going to watch this battle with Lovell and Briss. It looks like Lovell is really pushing the issue, trying to see if he can coax an incident out of Howie Briss. Maybe a little bit of a lockup, maybe a little bit of a spin, something, trying to put the pressure on. Although we have seen in races past, Howie Briss is no stranger to feeling pressure and not having it bother him a whole lot. So, and you can see there's not much difference in the lines that these drivers are taking. So Nicholas Lovell trying to close the gap, gets a little bit loose on exit there. You saw just a little bit of a bobble trying to get set up for the long run down the straight, but just not, I think just a little bit of turbulent air just being right behind Howie Briss is allowing Howie Briss to stay in front, as Nicholas Lovell's having a little bit of issues trying to control the rear end of his number 37 machine.
Yeah, Lovell's definitely given it everything that he's got here as we're riding on board with Lovell on the roof camera here. And yeah, I mean, we're seeing a little bits of bobs and weaves from the tail end of the 37 machine as he's trying to keep himself up here with Howie Briss, trying to see if he can put himself up on that podium here tonight. With only 2 laps left to go, we're going to see Aaron Smith come across that line here in just a few moments and bring out the white flag in the final lap of the Laguna Seca 200 here for the 2022 VRL Cup Series. It has been fantastic racing here tonight, and I mean, frankly, what a race. What a race that we've seen here tonight. And, you know, with Aaron Smith being out here and just dominating the field, it's, you know, I think it's a good way for Aaron Smith to kind of be able to bring home the win for the final road course race of the season and add on yet another win to his record. I think it'll be 12 or 13 wins for Aaron Smith this year, so just absolutely incredible. Yeah. The white flag is out, and it is the final chance to dance.
Yeah, so Tony Hilbrandts also came into pit road just before the white flag came out. He had another issue, not sure what it was, but we were showing a couple of off tracks on the timing screen. So I think Tony had a little bit of a spin and decided that he's probably going to end his night a little bit early. Should be able to secure that 7th place position. If not, he will only probably fall down to about 9th position. So not losing too much out, but this is still going to be the major talking point, this battle for 3rd position. Howie Briss and Nicholas Lovell still, and they have been slowly catching up to James Miller just in front of them as well. And you've still got the battle between Nicholas Corsell and Sean Williams for 5th that we haven't really been looking too much on, but I think we're going to show you both of these battles as they come around their final lap, and we'll see how they all turn out, as Lovell is getting very close to Briss once again. I believe the checkered flag will fly for Aaron Smith as he comes down the front straightaway. There he goes underneath the gantry, and he will take the win. James Miller is going to be not too far behind, and very close behind him. James Miller actually slowing down a little bit there, looks like. So Howie Briss coming up pretty close, not close enough. Lovell has given up, could not make it on the final corner. Not sure if he probably decided that was it and he is done. Pan back to 5th place though, and this battle is going to be two corners left. Mason, take us there.
Sean Williams up ahead in that 5th place spot. Nicholas Corsell just behind him as they go through the final turn, and Corsell gets sideways. The Energizer Bunny machine into the wall in the rear end, but he keeps it brings it back together in the final moments and bringing it home for 6th place here. Not the way that Nicholas Corsell probably wanted to end his race here in that final turn, but bringing it home nonetheless. And wow, what a race here for Nicholas Corcel. The hard charger of the race, up 10 spots from where he started in 16th up into 6th place. So phenomenal job here from Corcel in the Energizer 7 machine among the rest of the field here. Just fantastic racing. Scott Shire, he managed to come home with 8 spots under his name, so you could kind of award him the 2nd place hard charger award here, sitting in 7th. But for Aaron Smith and James Miller and Howie Briss, it is much the same from what we saw last week at Long Beach, with the exception of Howie Briss. Howie did not make it on the podium last week. It was Daniel Mosteller that was 2nd place last week. And Aaron Smith taking home 1st and James Miller in 3rd. But tonight, a little bit of a different story with Aaron Smith taking home yet another win, back-to-back wins for the 70 driver. James Miller taking home 2nd and Howie Briss in 3rd. And with all of that being said here, let's take a look at our post-race results. And we're going to go ahead and get ready for our post-race interviews here. As I'm going to go ahead and find where our drivers are and get them ready here for their interviews. Man, Gareth, what a night here, and I wasn't too sure what to expect going into tonight, but I gotta say it was incredible.
Oh, it was fantastic. I've never seen, such. Well, I can't say I've never seen such amazing racing, because you know what? I see such amazing racing every week from these drivers in particular. I cannot express to you how difficult these cars are to drive. This track especially is to drive, and these drivers are all just they just continuously surprise me with just how skilled they are, and how confident they must be in the vehicle and in the equipment underneath them to really put on the shows that they put on. And I'm just ecstatic. Unfortunately we had 16 cars. Logan Jones didn't actually take the grid in the end. We had Ashmore, D-Tray, Mercia all leaving quite early on. Matthew Fitz had problems. We saw Thomas Sewell have problems. We had Connor Gibson also had problems. We had a lot of problems. He blew an engine, and but credit to all of these drivers. They all turned up. They all gave it a go, and it was a very, very difficult car track combo, and it's great racing all around. Great to watch, and fantastic final lap. I didn't expect to have such close intervals towards the end there, and that's exactly what happened.
Some fantastic racing in the final couple laps of the race here, and up in the booth first is going to be Howie Briss, taking home 3rd place here tonight. Howie, fighting for your championship. You're coming home with the 3rd place finish here tonight. I imagine that's going to help give you a little bit of a boost going into the final 2 races that we have left on the schedule. But Howie, I mean, going into tonight after what we saw last week at Long Beach, not quite having probably the best of races that you maybe had hoped for, but tonight you definitely recouped that and coming home with that podium. What was your expectations going into Laguna, and what were some challenges that you potentially had to overcome tonight?
Pretty much just save the rears. Oh my gosh. Yeah, pretty much just save the rears. And just managed the corkscrew pretty much. That was the only difficult part of the race, but other than that, I kind of felt like it was okay. But I wish I could have got 2nd there, because James ran off at the little kink for going uphill to the corkscrew. Thought I could have got him, but after that, the car just never felt the same. So me and Level had that battle in the last couple of laps for 3rd.
Yeah, we seen a lot of drivers kind of scrapping for positions in the final couple laps. Well, I say a lot, but it was a couple drivers. But with that last restart that we had, that caution coming out from the 31 driver blowing his engine. I mean, what was kind of running through your head when you seen that yellow flag come out, and knowing that the field had to restart? Were you hoping to be able to get yourself up into first. I mean, be able to pass Aaron for the lead. I mean, what was kind of running through your head at that moment?
At first, I thought we weren't going to catch the pace car because Aaron decided to not slow down until the last minute. But yeah, I didn't think I would be up until second. But then James just got a heck of a restart and he pulled away. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I knew I was going to finish third. I'm racing for Aaron's racing for pro division. I'm racing for amateur division at this point. So yeah, good win for Aaron, and I guess I'll take the amateur win in this race.
Well, I don't think anything about your performance here tonight, Howie, was amateur in any way. You definitely make driving these cars look extremely easy, almost too easy. But Howie, you did a phenomenal job here tonight in keeping yourself up there on that championship spot, looking to come home with that trophy at the end of the season. But Howie, before we let you go and celebrate with your teammates and fellow drivers, is anyone watching the broadcast at home, anyone in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank before you go tonight?
Grandmother, granddad, Katie and Stephanie, mom, dad, Joe Thomas, the whole RTR team. Yeah, I don't know if I locked up the points or not, but hopefully I get some news here. I mean, they got the points up, but the points gap is 264 going into the last two races, so I don't know if I actually got it or not, but I hope that's count as locking it up, but I don't know. I mean, Lovell said he's not going to show up next week, and he's going to get a provisional, so I might have just locked it up right now.
Well, we might be talking to our 2022 VRL Cup Series champion. We will find out for certain going into next week at Phoenix. But Howie, phenomenal drive tonight. Incredible racing that you did here in the 97 machine. And we look forward to seeing you next week at Phoenix and hopefully be able to talk to you again there.
Yeah, I hope to see you guys there. Phoenix is one of my good tracks, so hopefully we'll be back on the podium, hopefully in victory lane.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us up here tonight, Howie. Congratulations once again, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, see you guys.
Alrighty, folks, that was Howie Briss out of the booth here, coming home with that third place spot here tonight. Up next is going to be James Miller coming home with the second place spot on the podium here tonight. James, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on your podium. I'm going to pass you off to my good friend Gareth McAllister, and go ahead with your post-race interview.
Thanks, Mason. G'day, James. First of all, you got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, well, tell us what made you decide to... First of all, I want to go through why you stayed out so long before coming down pit road. We saw almost every driver come down pit road by about lap 30, but you stayed until... I think it was about lap 33, 34 you stayed out before coming down. Was there anything... Was it because you found yourself getting into the groove and you just liked the way the car felt, or was there any particular reason as to why you stayed out longer than any other driver?
I mean, it's kind of a long story. I got like no sleep last night, so I was not in the mood to do this race at all. And it was clear pretty early on I'd have to drive pretty hard to stay with Aaron, so I just rode around for the first 10 laps kind of thing. And just said to myself, like, I might as well just try to make it the whole way on the same set of tires, because then it gives me something to do in the race, kind of keep me going. And yeah, like I got into a rhythm, got into a groove, the car was feeling good. I was like, yeah, I could do this. So I set, I think 10 gallons. It was like a 4-second pit stop. Yeah, I just ran the tank dry and filled her up till the end, and just I was good to do that, and then the yellow came out. But
well, you sound very tired, but we're going to keep pushing through the interview anyway, so try not to fall asleep on us. So I did actually want to talk about that caution. That you were in fourth, and we tried to get a good view of it, but it happened so fast. How did you manage the Andretti hairpin? You entered in fourth and you came out in second. How did you even manage that?
I don't know. Well, off the restart, I think I had a better jump than Nick, so I think I cut low. and then I believe Howie might have still been outside of Aaron. So I just rode the apron if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. That was a while ago. I don't remember.
Well, I mean, look, when you're in the car, you're focused, you're just driving around. So I don't blame you for not remembering exactly what happened. But yeah, look, it was an amazing move, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly how you were able to do it that quickly, but it looked great. And final question, you had an incident there where you almost really wadded up your car, and Howie Briss almost made up second position on you when you came out of the kink heading up to the corkscrew. Was that purely just fatigue and some tiredness setting in, or because we saw you using every, and I mean every inch of the racetrack today trying to catch Aaron Smith after the caution came out? Was that your plan, just to try and use every inch and every single little bit you could, or were you just fatigued and trying hard not to wad it up too badly?
I mean, a little bit of all the above. The first part of the run before the caution, right, I was just riding around trying to save my tires, and we had like, I think it was 2 laps into that run, I was sitting second. I don't know how far back from Aaron. I felt like I was close. I was probably really far away, but I was like, F it. I might as well just try to burn these tires off, see what I can do. And yeah, I don't think that was a smart decision, because I didn't have the head on me to do that. And yeah, I sent it way too hard. I think it wheel hopped too, and it just walked out to the dirt. So I just kept my foot in it. I think I even grabbed third gear in the dirt, popped back out, and Howie was beside me. I was like, well, we're side by side, might as well, I'm not giving it up like that. And I don't know, we somehow made it through the corkscrew and pop out the other side. And yeah, I just burnt the tires off it for the fun of it, because I was done. I was done with the race.
Well, we could tell that you were burning it up, and you were driving absolutely crazy. It was fantastic to watch, and I'm sure pretty crazy from inside the car, but it was great to watch. And yeah, great thing that it didn't end badly, and you managed to keep it in second position. So with that, I will say, who would you like to shout out to for this second place here today at Laguna Seca? Friends, family, sponsors, the floor is yours, my friend.
For sure, Team AV for the car and the paints and everything. It's nice to run breast cancer awareness cars for the month of October. I don't know why, I really love pink race cars. I should probably just keep running it, because I like pink race cars. They stand out great. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Howie did clinch the championship. If not, I'm sure he will next week anyways, so I'll big congratulations to him. He deserved it. He's been on one all season long with being consistent and being up front and being competitive, so huge shout out to him.
All right, well, I haven't done the math, I will be honest, but yeah, it is very close as to whether he has or hasn't, but it's looking in a positive light for Howie at the moment. So nice shout out between competitors, and we love to see the camaraderie here in this league. Great to hear from you, James, once again, and have a nice sleep. I think you've definitely earned it.
I appreciate that. Thanks for the broadcast for you guys, and everyone at home for watching.
All right. Thank you, James, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good night.
All right, and that is a very tired James Miller out of the booth here. He's going to go fall asleep now, probably, I would imagine. Up next in the booth is the man of the hour, Aaron Smith, coming home with another win here tonight at Laguna Seca. Back-to-back wins for the double road course races that we've had here, both at Long Beach and tonight at Laguna. Aaron, welcome back to the booth. It seems like deja vu all over again from last week at Long Beach, coming home with a strong win there, and tonight, much the same. And last week you mentioned that you weren't too sure that you were going to be able to finish out the last couple races here, or be here for this race in particular, but great to see you out here. Great to see the 70 machine out here at Laguna and, well, showing its prowess around the track. Aaron, I mean, I'm at a bit of a loss of what to ask you, Aaron, because you're just, as we like to say up here in the booth, you're the road course aficionado here, and I mean, what does it for you, man? I mean, what do you do to be able to do what you do here?
I don't really know how to explain it, to be honest with you. I spent a lot of time crashing these things in practice earlier today, and we're able to figure out where the limits are and work from there.
Absolutely, and I mean, once you found those limits, it seemed like you were untouchable at that point. I mean, on these starts that we had, both at the start of the race and the caution, I mean, you managed to pull away to basically a second gap before you made it around the checkered line again. So, I mean, you definitely had something going for you that no one else really seemed to be able to match here tonight, and really just kind of showing that you were the driver to beat here tonight. Now, I mean, what's kind of your, I guess, what's the rest of your expectations here for the rest of the season? Do you plan on finishing out the last couple races, or is this going to be the last one for you?
Yeah, I know I said the last week was going to be my last one, but I didn't take into account that tonight was Halloween and my other league would be out. So yeah, this will be my last one. I'll probably tune into the broadcast for the last 2 races, but as far as racing goes, I'm done for the season.
Well, Aaron, I want to give you credit. I want to give you a shout out for doing so well this season and just pulling off an impressive amount of wins here. I don't think I've quite ever seen a driver pull off double-digit wins in a season before, but Aaron, you did a phenomenal job of that. Now, kind of looking a little bit forward into next year, do you plan on continuing to race here with VRL, or what's kind of your outlook going into 2023?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what next year is going to look like. I'd like to run for like Road to Pro and all of that, so I don't know if I'll have time to run like leagues every night like I do now. But we'll see. If I have a Monday open, I'll certainly give it a shot. But if not, I think this might be it.
Well, Aaron, I gotta say it is going to be a little bit of a bittersweet moment here to see you go, at least for now. If we ever happen to see you back out here on track, it'll always be a welcome experience. But Aaron, I want to thank you for joining us up here in the booth. And before we let you go, celebrate with your teammates and fellow drivers, anyone in the booth, anyone watching at home, excuse me, or anyone in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank for tonight's race as well as your season here at VRL.
As always, I'd like to thank the folks at the Velocity Racing League for putting the show on, and all the folks in the field for putting on a solid race, as well as the lap cars for being pretty kind to me there when I was getting by them, and of course, y'all for broadcasting, all the folks for watching. Looking forward to showing up whenever I show up. I don't know when it'll be, but I'll be back.
Well, we look forward to seeing that lean, mean yellow banana back out on track whenever that happens to be, and hopefully be able to talk to you again in the future. But Aaron, thank you once again for joining us here tonight, and good luck to you in your future endeavors, and good luck to you on your Road to Pro journey.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Aaron. Alrighty, folks, that was Aaron Smith, our race winner, out of the booth here tonight, and that is going to conclude our coverage of the Laguna Seca 200 here for the 2022 Velocity Racing League Cup Series. My name is Mason Heimbaugh. With me here tonight, Gareth McAllister, bringing you the action here tonight with Team Goon Squad. I want to thank each and every single one of you for tuning in here tonight and enjoying the action. If you did, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch all the action that we have here 7 nights a week. Be sure to tune in Monday nights, 8 p.m. every single week. It is fantastic racing here with the Velocity Racing League. And Gareth, I mean, for the past few races that you've been able to be here up here in the booth with me, I mean, what's your hot take here on the Velocity Racing League Cup Series?
I mean, the racing speaks for itself. That's what I'm gonna say, because the drivers are amazing. The track choices that I think Tony puts all of this together with the setups, the tracks, everything. It produces great racing every single week. There's no denying that at all. I absolutely love coming up. I love showing up for me on Tuesdays to watch these guys race around the track and call the action here with you, Mason, as well. So I've had an absolute blast, and I absolutely adore coming out here, and couldn't ask for a better field or better group of guys to also chat to for post-race interviews. They're all very nice people and great to talk to. Now we do have Phoenix coming up, the Legacy Phoenix, so the old style of racing circuit with the old asphalt paved on that one. So should be interesting. Should see a little bit of side by side, well, a lot of side by side action, and it'll be great to see the ARCA cars go back to where they belong and being on ovals once again.
It's going to be a fantastic week for the Phoenix 200 next week at the Legacy Phoenix Speedway. Again, once again, thank you all for tuning in and watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you all next week, same time, same place. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week.